Good morning, everyone. Welcome again to the High Vibe Tribe weekly online meetup group, where every week we have some sort of guest presenter or interesting topic that we like to present to the group so that we're all constantly learning something new and connecting with people that know a lot more than we do on a particular topic, presumably. Today's presenter is Miss Johanna Walker, and I met Johanna at a meetup group in Boulder. We belong to Daring Divas together, and we've come across each other many times at Women Who Start Up, all kinds of meetups going on in Boulder and Denver. So Johanna and I have crossed paths many times, and I have been at one of her live presentations, which is just awesome. So I'm so grateful for her being here today. But let me give you a little bio on Johanna. She calls herself the fear-blasting storytelling maven for coaches, consultants, leaders, and change makers, also known as a public speaking coach. But you know, the whole fear-blasting thing, we all could stand to do that. She's the founder of Women Who Speak, a transformational speaker coaching program for female leaders, and leads an ongoing coaching and training group called the Speakers Playground. Anything with playground in the title has got to be a good thing. She's the co-founder and co-host of Boulder's popular bi-monthly story slam, Truth Be Told, where people from the audience come to the stage and tell true stories about their lives. I never made it to one of those, Johanna, but they look so inviting.
Yeah.
She's worked with adolescent girls and women in jail, as well as corporate execs and fledgling entrepreneurs, because she believes that everyone has a story to tell. And I will definitely be sharing Johanna's website. It's just johannawalker.com, right, Johanna?
That's right. Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, so let me just pin Johanna, and off to the races, Ms. Walker.
Okay, let's roll. I wanted to start with a story, something that happened just recently. I was leaving my house. I don't always have my mornings dialed in. You know, I don't know. So often I leave in a scramble and I'm rushing to get out the door and gathering my stuff. And I go outside and I get in the car and I'm gripping the steering wheel and I'm late and I'm leaning forward. You know, I'm leaning forward as if that's going to get me there quicker. And I'm kind of beating myself up, like, really, Johanna, really, you haven't got this figured out yet, really? And so I'm doing a little like self-attack as I like grip my teeth and grip the steering wheel. And then I come to a traffic light where I think, oh, this is an opportunity to pause, catch my breath, land, take a breath and just like slow down and arrive in my morning. And so I approach the traffic light, and instead of doing that, I reach for my phone, which is in the passenger seat, and I check Facebook because I have to see the most recent post. So I pick up my phone, I check Facebook, and the first thing that shows up is a memory from last year, something I posted a year ago on that day. And the post is simply, "It's fun to be me." And in that moment, it made me laugh. I totally laughed, and it just like broke the tension that I was holding. And I thought, oh yeah, it's fun to be me. Even now, even in this imperfect morning, this mess of a morning where I'm scrambling to get out the door and racing to get to the place I need to be, it's fun to be me. And the reason I'm telling you this story is because I believe, for a couple of reasons. One is I believe that the best speakers, the speakers that I want to hear, hold that it's fun to be me. And when it's fun to be me when I'm hiking in the mountains and when I'm dancing with my friends and when I'm hanging out with people I love and doing all the great things I do, but also to be able to hold that it's fun to be me even when I'm in the hard places, even when I'm in the hard place, in the places where I'm kind of a mess and a little bit imperfect and not on my game. It's fun to be me then too. And when I come to the stage and bring all of myself, even my messy parts, my rough edges, that I'm not totally polished, but I'm being all of me. I'm bringing all of me to the stage. That's the speaker I want to be, and that's the speaker I want to hear, because I want to connect to a real human being. The other thing I like about that little practice is it's fun to be me, is we get good at what we practice. And you all in this network, I'm sure you know this, we get good at what we practice, right? We get good at what we practice. And so if I'm practicing, Johanna, I can't believe it, you're doing this again, when are you going to figure this out? That's what I'm going to get really good at. But if I practice, it's fun to be me, the door opens, my heart opens, and it's like, oh yeah, it's fun to be me. And I get good at being me and having fun being me. So I'm going to talk about both these things today, about how to bring more of yourself to the stage and why that matters so much. And also, we get good at what we practice. So what is it that we want to practice as a speaker, as a business owner? What is it that you want to practice? And what do you want to keep showing up for? In service of your business, in service of your mission, in service of your message, in service of you living a bigger life. Because that's really what it's all about. I think you're here because you want to grow your business. You're here because you want to grow your business. And for me, as my business grows, what happens is, one, my business grows. I get more clients. I make more money. That's awesome. My business is growing. But what I'm seeing more and more as my business grows is I get to do more of my work. I get to do more of my work. I get to impact more people. I get to connect with more people and do more of my work. And as I do more of my work, I get better at the work that I do. And my work sharpens, and I hone in on what I'm really good at and how I can really serve people. And that is gold. That is really fun, that I get better at my work. And when I get better at my work, I have greater impact. And when I have greater impact, I get excited. It's fun to be me. When I notice the impact that I'm having, that I'm actually touching people's lives, and I'm actually, when I touch one person's life, his or her life changes and is impacted, and the world changes. And that's how the world changes, is by, when more and more of us show up in our genius, in our fullness, and really do the work that we love. And speaking can really support you in doing that. Speaking can support you in getting clear about your message, getting clear about who you are, your expertise, your genius, and in connecting with people, impacting people's lives, making a difference in your life, in their life, and in the world. So I'm all about the power of speaking for your business, for your life, for the world. John F. Kennedy, I always like to say the quote John F. Kennedy said, the only reason to give a speech is to change the world. And so I like to stand in that truth and the power of that statement, that we take it, when you give a speech, you take it that seriously, and take that, the responsibility of the task, that you're standing in front of a group of people and saying, I have something to say that I want you to hear. And I want you to be changed. I want you to be changed by my words. And that's what you're doing when you're speaking. You're asking the person in the audience to change, to trade something in. That they have an idea, they have a way of living, a way of being. You're asking them to trade that in for something that you have to share. And so to stand in the responsibility of that and the power of that is necessary, is essential. And what I find happens for me and my clients, is when I stand in that, for most people, for a lot of people, that's a little uncomfortable. That's a little uncomfortable. It puts us up against our stuff of, all the messages we got about not believing in ourselves, and, however it shows up for you. For a lot of people, that's uncomfortable to stand in that authority and claim that place on the stage. And when you do that, what happens is you dig a little deeper into your well, into your resource of awesomeness that is there. It's sometimes you've been trained to keep, to stuff down. But you got to dig a little deeper into your well and bring it forward. And not only are the people that you speak to changed, but you are changed. You are changed by showing up for yourself and by standing in that power. So I suspect you're all here because that everybody in here is on some place on the speaking journey. You're someplace on the speaking journey. Maybe you're already out there speaking, you've got it all dialed in. I suspect you're here because that's not true. So I'm guessing either you're speaking already and maybe not converting as much as you want. You know, it's a big hustle to speak. It's a lot of energy to put yourself out there, to create the talk, to, you know, to make it work for you. And for a lot of people, it can be very discouraging. It's like, okay, I'm speaking, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but the clients aren't coming in. I'm not converting the way I'm supposed to be. I think I should be converting. Or you have this idea that, yeah, I got to speak for my business, but I have no idea how to do that. I've got a mess of ideas. I don't know how to craft a talk. I don't know how to get a gig. And so you just like send an email instead, or move things around on your website, or, you know, do another vision board, and, you know, not taking the action that it takes to get out, to put yourself out there in that place of discomfort. Because like I said, it's uncomfortable for a lot of people. Or it's just terrifying. It's just terrifying. And you've got the story that I'm not a speaker. I can't do it. I would probably humiliate myself. So I'm suspecting, and I'd actually love to hear just for a minute, if anybody wants to share, you can either just like unmute yourself and just like where are you on the speaking journey? I'd kind of just like to get a sense, or maybe it's better, I'll say, raise your hand if you are already speaking, just so that I can see if you're speaking for your business. Raise your hand if you feel like you have speaking just like nailed it, dialed in, boom, I've got it figured out. Awesome. How about if your sticking place is, I don't know how to get gigs? Okay. How about if your sticking place is, I'm scared of public speaking? All right. How about if your sticking place is, I don't know how to craft a talk to really connect with my customers? Okay. Anything else? Anything else you want to type into the chat just to like let me know sort of what your biggest question is, or what your sticking place is?
I think you hit all the big ones there, okay. Johanna.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna tell you just a little bit more about myself and how I got here, and then I'd love to talk about just some of the key pieces to crafting a talk that you can use to be how to become a sought after speaker, really, and to use that to grow your business. So I started out as I was an artist. I grew up as a theater maker, a writer, a painter, and my whole, for the first few decades of my life, I was a starving artist, and I was just resigned to being a starving artist. I thought, even in high school, when somebody, like I was interviewed in the senior paper, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, a starving artist. Like, I just thought that there was something very romantic about it, and I was very attached to the idea of being a starving artist, and that's pretty much what I was. And I thought, okay, so I made art, I did creative projects, I did theater projects, I painted houses, I was a receptionist in offices, I did some carpentry. So I always had jobs that kept me making enough money to do my life, and then I had my creative projects that would generate a little bit of income, but I never dreamed that I would actually make money doing something that I really cared about. And I taught these solo performance classes, which was, I charged very, very little bit of money for these extraordinary classes that I taught. And a woman in one of my classes was invited to give a TEDx talk, and she asked me to coach her. So I said, sure, I'll see what I can do. And I charged her $50 an hour, which was more than I had ever made. And I thought, oh my God, I'm rich. So and I helped her with her TEDx talk, and I thought, oh, I could do this. And I had this idea, this is fun. I could be a public speaking coach. And I honestly thought at that point that all I had to do was say, I'm going to be a public speaking coach. And then I would have a full roster of clients, and I would charge them all $50 an hour, and I would live happily ever after. I had no idea what I was actually stepping into when I decided to be a public speaking coach. But I reached out to a colleague of mine we had the same theater training, and I said, hey, and he was a public speaking coach. And I said, hey, what have you figured out? And he kind of took me on and trained me and helped me build, use my theater background to hone in on supporting the business community and how to build a business. And this was an edge for me, the whole business. Like, what? I have to put myself out, and I have to actually go find those clients. It hadn't occurred to me that I would have to work to get all those clients. And there was a point where he said, okay, Johanna, now you're going to have to give a talk. And I was like, wait, what? What are you talking about? I'm not a speaker. I have nothing to say. I can help people give a talk, but I'm not a speaker myself. And he said, no, sorry, you're going to have to. I literally thought I could do a business as a public speaking coach without ever giving a talk. And it was utterly terrifying for me. And I had no idea how to do it. But I did manage to get myself a gig. My goal was to survive. And I did. I did it. I survived. Didn't get a client out of it, but that was okay. I was like, all I wanted to do was survive. And then I started getting more gigs, doing okay. I wasn't getting clients. I was speaking. This is my big secret. I was speaking about how you could grow your business with public speaking. But I had no idea how to grow my business with public speaking. I could give a talk. I could draw on my theater skills to give a talk, but I had no idea how to actually use it to grow my business. So I studied and studied and studied and learned the sales formula and did all the research. And then I started doing this very formulaic way of giving a talk that was supposed to work, but it still wasn't working, or it started working a little bit, but it felt very inauthentic to me. It really wasn't me. It felt very what am I doing? So I circled back around to what I'm best at, which is showing up. And I found a way to really show up and connect to me and connect to my audience and pair that with strategy. And I found a way to actually show up as a speaker with heart and strategy and convert rooms. And I got to a place where I could give a talk and convert half of the room, consistently convert half of the room. And so this is now what's really fun for me, is to help people really find that marriage between strategy and heart. Strategy and heart. And really showing up for both of those. That one, strategy without heart is formulaic and manipulative, and heart without strategy is a little bit soupy and doesn't really get achieve your goals. So that's what I want to talk about now, is just a piece of what are the questions? What are the key questions to ask strategically? How do you show up fully in your heart? And how do you connect them? How do you connect them together? So the first piece we'll look at is strategy engineering. And the key question to ask is, what's your goal? What's your goal? And what's the goal of the person in the audience? What do they want? What do you want? And what do they want? What do they want? How do they think they're going to get there now? And what's the idea? What's the thinking that you're going to share with them that will get them to yes? So it's your goal. What is the thing you want? What is the thing they want? And what's the action they can take that's going to give them the thing that they want? And so, for instance, I talked about, we want to grow our businesses. We want to grow our businesses. We want to get more clients. We want to use speaking as a marketing tool to grow our businesses. But the thing we really want is to get to do more of what we love and to have a greater impact in the world. And so it's like to find the bigger goal that you can really use to connect with your people. When you're really clear about that, then you can reverse engineer. You go backwards. What are the yeses? What is the yes that your audience needs to say that is going to give them the thing that they want? So you're taking your audience on a journey. You want to take your audience on a journey. And I like to think about the journey as, there's the journey from the beginning of the talk. Where is your audience at the beginning of the talk? Where do you want to get them at the end of the talk? But the talk doesn't end at the end, or your relationship with them doesn't end at the end of the talk. The question you really need to ask is, where do you want them to be 3 months down the road or 6 months down the road? And then reverse engineer from there. So your relationship at the end of your talk, that's really the beginning of your relationship with this person. And so to be really clear about what happens after the talk, what happens after the talk, and where do you want them 3 months, 6 months, a year down the road? That's the big arc that you're taking with your audience. So that's a key question. When we're building strategy, I have actually a map that I'd love to share with you. I call the 8 steps to crafting a signature talk. That's the first one. And we have, then there's a series of questions to really build that strategy and build that arc. And I always say, you got to put a stake in the ground. I know, Liz, you have said this too. Put a stake in the ground. You have to answer questions you don't know the answers to sometimes. And put a stake in the ground, answer those questions, and move forward. And get information. Once you put that stake in the ground, then you get information. Then you can move the stake if you need to. But you got to be willing to go into the dark and take some guesses. The second thing is heart. And, I think for the heart is really being willing to show up as yourself and tell the story that shows your vulnerability and your humanity, and that you are a work in progress. And for the story that you want to tell, it's important to really hone in on what you're asking your audience to do and what's the turning point in your own story that got you to yes. You want to get your audience to yes? So where's the place in your story that got you to yes? What was the decision you made that got you to yes? What was the journey that you took that got you to yes? And when you're able to show that journey, I think where people get stuck here is they want to tell my whole life. I want to tell my whole life story. I'm going to tell my whole life story, and I want to tell them everything that got me here. Or the other place is I'm supposed to talk about, vulnerability is all the rage. So I have to be vulnerable, and I have to talk about childhood trauma, and I have to talk about the horrible things that have happened to me, and I have to talk about how I overcame them. And that's great. If that's relevant to your message, go for it. Show me the struggle. But it's very key that the story that you tell is, I call it strategic vulnerability. The story that you tell is really part of the journey that you're taking your audience on. And that the reason to tell your story, one is, yes, to show your humanity, but also to invite your audience into their story, so that they see you as an ally in their journey. So they're on this hero's journey. The person in your audience, she is on this hero's journey, and you as the speaker step in as an ally in her journey. And to be able to stand in that role, but also really open up the possibility of just let me give you the sword that's going to support you in slaying the dragon, So, I think there's definitely so much of what we learn in marketing is pain point. Go for the pain point. We just poke the pain point. And if we really dig the knife into the pain point, then they'll want to buy. And I have the solution to your pain point, and you'll buy what I have. But I like the perspective more of you guys have a lot figured out. You people in your audience are smart people. They have a lot figured out already, and they're on a journey. You're on a journey. They're on a journey, and you can help them on their journey. They get to be the hero, not a victim. The people I want to work with are heroes, not victims. So I think if you speak to your audience as heroes and not as victims, you're going to attract the people that you want to work with, and attract the people who are going to step up and show up and actually allow themselves to be changed. So the third thing, we've got strategy, we've got heart, and neither of those are going to do any good without showing up. Showing up. You got to show up. And by showing up, I mean a couple of things. One is raising your hand and saying yes to the speaking opportunities. The big ones, the uncomfortable ones, the scary ones, raising your hand and saying yes. And going, in my speaker's playground, I always talk about, one of the rules is go before you're ready. Go before you're ready. And so even as a speaker, putting yourself out on the public stage, go before you're ready. I guarantee, well, I don't know, guarantees are tricky, but but I'm pretty confident that if you wait till you're ready, you'll be waiting a long time. If you wait until you feel ready, you'll be waiting a long time. And if you raise your hand for the opportunity that you don't feel ready for, you're going to get ready. You're going to get ready, and you're going to figure it out. When I first had that first speaking gig, after my coach had said, you're going to have to speak, the very next day, it was somehow the universe opened the door for me. I was like, oh God. The very next day I went to a networking event. I introduced myself as a public speaking coach, and somebody came up and said, hey, do you speak to blah, blah, blah groups? And I said, yes, absolutely, I do. And that day I booked a gig for 3 months down the road. I was utterly terrified for 3 months. I was like hanging my head over the toilet and had sticky notes on my wall. And I was like working so hard to build this talk and changing it and rewriting it and stressing and pulling my hair out. And even when I went to give the talk, I didn't feel ready. But if I had waited until I was ready to give that talk, it would have been years. So show up means going before you're ready and saying yes. The other thing showing up means is showing up. I do a lot of work with the voice and the body. That when you're speaking, your voice and your body and your heart and your breath are all part of yourself and your presentation. And, so often we kind of tuck in, we get on stage and it's like, oh, I got to button up and tuck in to show up as a professional, and all my humanity and all my vulnerability just goes out the door so I can show up and be, a clean, sharp speaker, which is great. All that is great. But I want you to be a clean, sharp speaker in your body, in your voice, in your breath, in your heart. Just like if you've ever seen a crying baby, and this is something a little preview to a piece of my TED talk or my TEDx talk is, when you see a crying baby, she's crying with her mouth open and her chest expands and contracts and her belly rises and falls, and her breath and her voice are totally in the room. Her body is totally in the room, 100% present, speaking truth to power. And I'm not suggesting you go through a tantrum on stage, but to show up that fully, that's how you make a connection. That's how you connect with your audience. Breath is an intimacy creator. So when you show up and actually breathe and feel your whole body and feel all the discomfort of your body, all the discomfort of being in this uncomfortable situation, that's what's going to allow you to connect more deeply with your audience. So those are just a couple of pieces. I would love to invite you, like at the top of the talk, I talked about you get good at what you practice. We get good at what we practice. But if we go practicing our bad habits, even as speakers, if we keep practicing our bad habits, our negative habits, the habits that keep us small and tight and rigid, we're going to get really good at that. So we have to be willing to go out of our comfort zone to be able to create new habits that then we will get good at. And so it means being more vulnerable than you're comfortable being, showing up with more of your quirkiness, a little bit more of your neurotic awesomeness. Whatever it is for you, like I would love for you to think about, like, where's the edge of my comfort zone? What will allow me to create a new pathway to practice? So I'm not just practicing what I'm good at. I'm not just practicing my comfort zone, but I can kind of step out of it, whether it's physicality or whether it's content, or whether it's raising your hand for the gig that feels a little bit scary, or whether it's even just like stepping out and saying, I am a speaker. Maybe it's at the next networking event you go to, you introduce yourself as a speaker. So I invite you just now to think about, what's your edge? What's the edge for you? What's a tiny step that you could take that would allow you to step out of your comfort zone, start to create a new pathway, go before you're ready, and expand into a bigger version of yourself.
So, Johanna, we're at 10 of 10, but I could listen to you all day. I'm like in a trance listening to you. Really good stuff you're sharing here right now.
Awesome.
Did you have more to the presentation?
Yeah, I wanted to wrap up just by really inviting you for each one of you to really take that, make that decision and that commitment to an action step. Like I said, everybody's at a different place in the journey, in the speaking journey. And wherever you are, what's the step that you can take that would step you a little bit outside of your comfort zone so that you can expand and to create a new pattern?
Thank you. So we definitely want to take Q&As for sure, but I know I definitely want people before the 10 o'clock hour is up, because I don't know if some people have other appointments, but we want to connect with you, Johanna. Many of us do. So how can we do that? And then we'll answer questions.
Well, how about this? I'll share in the chat. I shared the 8 steps.
Oh, good.
To crafting a signature talk, so you can grab that, and that'll also add you to my mailing list, which of course you can unsubscribe from. But I'm starting to get super consistent about my newsletters, so I'm enjoying sharing great content.
I'm getting your emails, Johanna, and they're really well written. I have to applaud you on that. They're engaging, and great job with your writing. Very good. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So a couple questions I see about getting gigs. Getting gigs it's about networking. It's about putting yourself out there. It's about pitching, pitch, ask, meet, put yourself out, identify as a speaker. And it's about having an awesome, epic talk. Having epic content, because once you give your talk, once you start making those connections, then you get to really leverage that and ask for referrals, and one group will introduce you to another group. So that's kind of a broad scope, but I would say it really is a lot about putting yourself out and pitching. So making a list of potential places to speak, asking everybody hey, this is what I speak on. Do you have any ideas about where to speak? It's asking your clients and your colleagues any ideas on where to speak. Every time you do have an opportunity to speak, it's asking the organizer, hey, do you know another group that might benefit from this message? It's asking your audience, do you know another group that might benefit from this message? And then I think it's also setting your sights high. What's that big event that you just long to speak at that event? Like, go after it. Go before you're ready. Ask. Make big, bold asks. It's not going to happen sitting home in front of your computer, you know,
Really,
watching
Johanna?
TEDx talks and visioning about how you on the stage. Vision, I am all for the vision. I'm all for seeing yourself on that big stage. That's super powerful, but you got to take action. You got to take action. And it's a long game. The other thing about getting gigs is it's a long game. And you got to be very resilient and stubborn. Stick with it.
So, Johanna, there was a question from John about what about practice and skill learning through Toastmasters? Have you had experience with that group, or?
I do not. I have never done Toastmasters. I hear from many people it's a great opportunity to get on your feet and practice. Absolutely. I think what my speakers playground I call Johanna style Toastmasters because it's a little more embodied. I do a little bit more. I think Toastmasters, you have opportunities to practice, but not a lot of ways to create new pathways. You know, that's what I hear from people is like, it's a little bit of a slow road. So I do a lot of work with improv and play and voice and body that actually is how, you know, and teaching how to actually create the new pathways. Toastmasters is a great place to get on your feet and practice. So I hear. I've never been to Toastmasters.
Okay. So there's another question here. How many different talks do you have? Do you switch them up, or do you just have one, or do you have a recommendation on that?
I do have a couple of different talks, really depending on the audience and depending on, it always depends on what I'm currently, the pipeline I'm currently promoting. So I have a talk that's more focused on telling stories, talk that's more focused on fear and comfort, and I always just try to get information about the audience before I'm giving a talk so that I can really be relevant and serve them as best I can. But I have the essence of a talk that I just can make little changes depending on the audience, but I'm not writing a whole new talk for each group.
So you just get really good at it. You fine tune it.
Yeah, you get good at fine tuning it.
Yeah. So Lisbeth, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question? Is she here?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't see you in my Hollywood squares.
Okay. I don't want to be seen or talking. No, this was just a sharing because I've just been at a conference and there was a mistake. So something happened and they needed a speaker. So they asked me if I wanted to present something. And that I had 2 hours to prepare a 45-minute talk. But that was the stepping up. You know, it wasn't comfortable. But I'm used to talking, speaking, so it's not really a problem. And I wrote down the points, how is it relevant for these people? And I got a lot of great feedback, and some of the things is really, you know, feeling it and the strategy and people getting something out of it. This so tying into the group. And you talked about the body, the frequency, and also the pauses when I talk. People actually appreciate when you are pausing. So because they can see that you're genuine. And what they pointed out was you're talking from experience, from your heart. So that really touches people. And of course there was a strategy. That was what I had 2 hours to do. But I did that just in Barcelona a few days back. And I just wanted to say I did it a few days back, and what you're saying works.
Oh,
step up.
Thank you, Lisbeth. Okay, Liz Bigger has a good question, Johanna.
Yeah.
What do you do when you can tell you lost the crowd? How do you get them back?
Oh, it's hard.
You do something dramatic, like you just like.
You know, I think there are some different tools you can try, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. But I would say one is tune in on the person. Usually there's somebody who you haven't lost. You might feel an energetic kind of like droop in the crowd, but if you zoom in and really focus on the person who is leaning in, then you can start to just generate that energy, because you get fed by your audience. You get fed by your audience, and you have to keep the commitment and keep the energy and keep movement forward, so you can connect, find somebody in the audience that you're getting energy from, and just focus on that person, on at least energetic, not that you want to zoom in and stare at that person for the whole talk, but just connect with that energy. That can sometimes feed that energetic loop that you're looking for. You can I think you can also go to the person who is disappearing and just make it a a project, like, hey, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to get you in a generous, open-hearted way. Like, what would it take? That you're just asking yourself, hey, come on, come back with me. You can just like pause, meet the energy where they are, take a baby step energetically to find them. I think the most important thing is to not get caught in a story of, oh shit, I've lost them. What am I going to do now? Oh God, they hate this. I suck. I should have prepared more. I should have been a dentist. What was I thinking? That's the thing that's not going to help. That's the thing that's not going to help. So I can clearly say that's what's not doing. That's what most of us do in that moment. It's like you start to panic, and it's like, oh no, what am I going to do? I've lost them. I just want to leave. I got to get out of here. And so to step, whatever it takes, to like, here I am. I'm committed to my message. I know the value of what I'm sharing. I am good. I am a good human. I am a speaker. I stepped up for this risk. Whatever it is that you can really honor yourself in that moment, stay true to your heart, stay true to your message. And, you may or may not reach them. I had a very hard, it was not my ideal audience. It was not my ideal audience. And it was hard. It was hard because I was like, wow, these guys, like some of them had their computers open and they were just like, this hippie chick has nothing for me, But I just stayed and I got real curious. Just, I think curiosity will get you further than confidence. And to stay curious, okay, how am I going to make a connection here? What am I going to shift to really reach these people? How can I get them to close their computer screens? And it's like just to stay in curiosity rather than make up a story of failure.
Thank you for that, Johanna. Though, if you're just starting off, and you only have 9 minutes, you got to just go with it.
Yeah.
I cannot believe people sat with their laptops open during a talk.
I know.
I mean, I should be able to believe it, but it's like, really? But it's a good lesson. It's good for you. It's like, all right, how am I going to, it gives you an opportunity to the curiosity. I'm like, oh, all right, I'm going to do something really nutty right now to get their attention.
Yeah.
I would do that. Yeah. All right. It's 10:03. And I just want to, Lori made one mention about Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. You want to comment on that real quick, Lori?
Yes, Osher Lifelong Learning is on almost all campuses across the United States. Just literally Google Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. And if, let's say that you're in Virginia, it'll tell you the schools in Virginia, in Idaho, wherever you are. And you cannot attend the classes unless you're over 50. You cannot teach the classes unless you're over 50. So many of you are just too young. I'm sorry, ladies, you're babies. But the rest of us can do that. And like was mentioned before, you have to pitch. So I pitch and I get picked up. I teach about 3 times a year at the Osher Institute at Boise State University. I've taught Osher at UW-Madison when I was there. So it doesn't hurt at all to get online and pitch an idea. You don't have to pitch in person. If they're interested, they will ask you to come in and share a little bit more so they get a feel of your presence. And if you have, like, I have a speaking page on my website where people can see me talking so they know whether they want to have me come or not. So I can bypass that sometimes, and sometimes I actually have to go in person. But you just pitch. And it's just look up Osher lifelong learning. As you see it, lifelong is
Yep.
one word. As you see it there, you're going to go, oh my gosh, I had no idea that was at Oregon or in, Texas or wherever.
Cool. Johanna, are you aware of that? Ever heard of that before?
I have never heard of that. No.
Okay. I don't know if they're at CU or not. Johanna was talking about CU. She's talking about Colorado University in Boulder. Just that's where Johanna is, right?
But Johanna's probably not old enough to teach at Osher.
No, neither am I. I'm 33. Forever. Alicia, you had a question.
No, I do, but I was just going to say that the University of Miami has an Osher Learning Center, and it's very popular and very well attended.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Yeah, so that's a great idea, Lori.
All right. Well, if we don't have any more questions, hold on.
And then just
He does have a question.
What's maybe the number one best strategy in working your talk to convert the audience? Or is that a long story?
That's okay. I'm not going.
The first thing is you're not gonna convert without a connection, without really making an authentic connection. So it's showing up, it's telling a story, it's the connection between your passion and your heart and your audiences and what they need and want, and being able to paint that picture.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Makes sense.
The power of the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And reason that rationality, two powerful states, strategy and heart, are two powerful combos. Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to, if any of you, want to jump on the phone and, talk about where you are in your speaking right now and what the next step would be for you, I'd be happy to have a conversation.
Thank you, Johanna.
So,
do you want to share your email for that opportunity?
I'll go ahead. Well, I'll go ahead and share this application. This just is for an opportunity for you to answer some questions before we get on the phone. And so if you want to do that, I'd be happy to.
Awesome.
Happy to do that with you.
Okay. Can I share that on the blog post that we do, Johanna, or would you rather not?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay. Yeah.
Awesome. So we could always have opportunity to connect and then schedule an appointment through that intake form, presumably.
Yeah.
Is that how you work? All right, cool. All right, you guys. Johanna, I have to tell you, when I have good speakers on, it's just me. My chakra starts spinning. Like its energy starts moving. And I felt it go from the root to the sacral to the power to the heart, moving right up. And I'm like, oh my God, it's like a massage. You put me in a trance with
awesome.
It's like your ability to convey like powerful, meaningful things is moving. The energy is like, whoa. You could stay here all day. I'll listen to you. Thank you so much. That was so
You're
great
welcome.
to have you. And when's the date of your TEDx talk?
The talk is on November 30th.
Okay.
I don't know when the video will be released, but I'll share it with you when the video comes out. You can share
Totally. I think you are in our group, Johanna.
it. Facebook group? Okay.
Yeah. So at the very least, email me and let me know and I'll share the link, but I totally want to see that.
Yeah.
We want to bump up those numbers for you, honey.
Yeah.
Go viral. Let's all right, here's the goal. We're going to help Johanna get her video to get at least 1 million views in the next year. How's that? Would that be good? That's a good one.
That's great.
Yes. Okay. Johanna, stick around for me just a minute. Everyone else, thank you so much for joining us. Next week is Mastermind Week, which is always fun because we just kind of throw things around and it's always a good time. I mean, we always come up with good stuff. I'm like, I set that intention. Every mastermind is just going to be fun and we're going to learn new things. And then Lori Buchanan will be the week after that. We're going to say, all right, how did you do what you've done there, woman? Of course, she is a Buddhist, so she's got some higher wisdom going on too. All right, you guys.